In his renowned short story, The Garden of Forking Paths, Jorge Luis Borges employs the metaphor of the labyrinth to convey the notion of boundless potential realities. Initially published in 1941 as El Jardín de Senderos que se bifurcan in Spanish, the narrative reflects emerging patterns of thinking and expression, encompassing advancements in quantum mechanics and the rise of detective thrillers. Blending elements of espionage, philosophical conundrums, and mythical history, this work invites readers to interpret and scrutinize the characters, circumstances, and even the genre itself. Interestingly, this was Borges's first story to be translated into English, and its introduction to the literary scene was not through a conventional journal, but rather in Ellery Queen's mystery magazine. Throughout many of Borges's stories, the author incorporates fabricated dates, locations, and bibliographical references to challenge our comprehension of reality and disrupt our assumptions about the past. In The Garden of Forking Paths, these supplementary textual elements allude to both factual and imaginary individuals and events. The story commences by identifying itself as an artifact and a fragment. The opening paragraph asserts that the primary text is a transcript of a deposition included in a book titled A History of the World War, authored by Captain Liddell Hart. According to Captain Hart, this testimony, provided by Dr. Yu Sun, a Chinese professor of English, a German spy, and the story's central character, unveils the reasons behind the postponement of a British offensive against German troops at Serre-Montauban in July 1916. It is important to note that the book and its author exist in the world beyond the Garden of Forking Paths, as Captain Liddell Hart was a renowned British soldier and strategist whose chronicle, The Real War, was republished as A History of the World War, 1914 to 1918. However, the character of Dr. Yu Sun is a creation of Borges's imagination. The remainder of the story unfolds in England and takes the form of Sun's fictional deposition, recorded while he awaits execution. The excerpt begins abruptly in the middle of a sentence with the phrase, "And I hung up the phone," emphasizing the acknowledgement that 2 pages of the confession are missing from Liddell Hart's account. The narration shifts to Sun's first-person perspective, starting with a description of a phone call conducted in German with Captain Richard Madden, an English agent who serves as Sun's adversary. Sun realizes from Madden's voice that his ally, Victor Rubery, a German agent, has either been captured or killed, triggering Sun's urgent and desperate actions. Sun possesses crucial intelligence regarding the location of a British artillery park that he needs to convey to his handler, referred to as the Chief, while evading Madden, who is closing in on him after eliminating Rubery. Sun devises a plan after discovering the name of the one person capable of receiving the information, a man named Dr. Stephen Albert, whom the reader later discovers is specifically chosen for a particular reason. In a brief aside, Sun reveals that his espionage activities are not driven by loyalty to Germany, but rather by a desire to prove a point. He aims to demonstrate to the chief, who appears biased against the Chinese, that an Asian can be competent and courageous. Sun prepares himself, dresses, and gazes at his reflection in the mirror, briefly feeling his mind wander. With Madden hot on his heels, Sun heads towards the town of Ashgrove. As Madden rushes down the platform, unable to catch the departing train, Sun is already on board, celebrating a small, momentary victory. Upon arriving in Ashgrove, Sun encounters a group of children whose faces are obscured by shadows. They inquire if he is searching for Dr. Stephen Albert's house, and following their instructions, Sun navigates down a road that descends and branches off. Following the children's directions, which instruct Sun to turn left at every crossroad, he contemplates the significance of this guideline, recalling that it aligns with the age-old rule for navigating a labyrinth, referred to as the left-hand rule for mazes. Continuing his journey, Sun finds himself lost in a daydream, reminiscing about his great-grandfather, Tsui Pen, who had conceived a grand plan to write a novel with more characters than even the vast Hunlu Mang and to construct a maze where all individuals would lose themselves. In his reverie, Sun envisions various types of labyrinths, mythical, paradisiacal, secluded on a mountaintop, expansive and transcendent, encompassing both the past and the future. Lost in the depths of his musings, Sun loses all sense of time and becomes entranced by the seemingly infinite beauty of the night. As he arrives at the iron gate of Dr. Albert's property, he is taken aback by the sound of Chinese music emanating from a nearby pavilion. Dr. Albert, appearing at the gate with his face obscured by a radiant paper lantern, inquires if Sun has come to witness the Garden of Forking Paths. Filled with a mixture of confidence and disbelief, Sun reveals his identity as the descendant of Tsui Pen, the architect of the Garden of Forking Paths. Unaware of Sun's true mission, Dr. Albert permits him entry into his house. Inside, Sun notices a large clock on the wall and, reading the time, calculates that Madden won't catch up to him for at least an hour. This realization allows Sun to engage in conversation with Albert, although he senses that this delay only postpones the inevitable. As a sinologist, well-versed in Chinese culture and history, Albert is familiar with the tale of Sun's ancestor, the provincial governor who retired from his position to write an infinite novel and construct a labyrinth. Albert proudly displays the writing cabinet once owned by Tsui Pen and proceeds to explain that the labyrinth exists within it, that the labyrinth and the novel are inseparable entities, intricately intertwined. Albert presents a letter penned by Tsui Pen as proof that the Garden of Forking Paths encompasses both labyrinth and novel, coincidentally sharing the same name as the unfolding Borges story. Albert proceeds to elucidate how Tsui Pen constructed the boundless narrative of the Garden of Forking Paths. Instead of making choices at each intersection of events within the novel, Tsui Pen opted for all of them. This approach resulted in a work that branched off in countless directions, encompassing every possible future and an infinite array of contradictions. As Sun listens intently, Albert recites sections from Tsui Pen's book, evoking a profound sense of connection between Sun and his ancestor across the boundaries of time. Albert identifies the central theme of the novel and the labyrinth as the enigma of time. To illustrate this concept, he poses a riddle. In a guessing game where the answer is chess, what is the only word prohibited? Sun correctly responds, chess. Albert explains that, similarly, during his translation of the novel, he noticed the absence of the word time in the text. This absence suggests that time itself is the answer to the labyrinth's puzzle. Albert further reveals that Tsui Pen held an unconventional philosophical notion of time, differing from the perspectives of Newton and Schopenhauer. Rather than perceiving time as a constant, unchanging, or uniform entity, Tsui Pen conceived of an infinite series of distinct yet coexisting times, a vast and immeasurable web of divergences, convergences, and contradictions. According to this framework, every conceivable reality exists simultaneously. Albert concludes with a poignant statement, asserting, "Time is forever dividing itself toward innumerable futures, and in one of them, I am your enemy." This theorem overwhelms Sun, and his growing agitation reaches a climax as he perceives multiple present realities in which he and Albert manifest in various invisible forms all around him. However, this vision shatters abruptly as Sun catches sight of Madden striding up the path toward the house. Madden's sudden arrival jolts Sun into immediate action. He urgently implores Albert to retrieve his ancestor's letter once again from the cabinet. Seizing the opportunity, while Albert turns away, Sun swiftly employs the one remaining bullet in his revolver to fatally shoot him. Just as Sun completes this act, Madden forcefully enters the scene and apprehends him. Although Sun is arrested, his chief becomes aware of the name of the city to be targeted for bombing, Albert, through the news report detailing the seemingly inexplicable murder. Despite facing the gallows, Sun takes solace in the fulfillment of his mission, as his deposition records that the German forces have successfully bombed the English artillery. In a confessional tone, Sun concludes his statement by expressing genuine remorse for having taken the life of the man who returned the words of his ancestor to him, revealing the true sorrow that lingers within his heart. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did and be sure to subscribe. Thank you.